systems, makers of the perfect block. In recent weeks, we've had a lot of inquiries about how do we clad the perfect block, our insulated composite concrete form. We're going to talk about cladding on the exterior, and then I'll talk a little bit about on the interior. We have quite a bit of information in our build manual, our technical construction manual, that you can download for free on the website. And it does discuss simple things that you can use to clad the block and some of the code required things that are thermal resistive barrier requirements on the interior face of the block for living quarters. Now, our block is made out of ground up expanded polystyrene and mixed with cement. And then when it's hard, it is a cementitious product, and it has what we call a tooth. It has texture on the face of the block. So any kind of adhesive, any kind of cement, any kind of mortar is going to stick quite well to this block. So here in the Southwest, stucco is the king when it comes to cladding an ICCF. It starts with a brown coat. Please follow me over here for a moment. This block right here is an example of bare block here, and then a brown coat, which I just mentioned, which is your base coat for a stucco coating. What you don't see here is the several layers that are required to put stucco over a wood frame structure, which is called an EIFS system, an exterior insulation finish system. It has white foam, tape, chicken wire and tar paper, a scratch coat to stiffen that chicken wire and tar paper, and then a base coat and a finish coat. What you're looking at here is this bare block represents your scratch coat. And so all you need to clad this with a stucco coating is a base coat of stucco, not necessarily synthetic. It can be just regular run-of-the-mill stucco, or a stucco with a waterproofing capability like used stucco or gigacrete, and then a finish coat. And depending on your stucco guy's technique, it could be a finish coat or two finish coats. This is a Monterey, they call that, and a sand finish. All right, but essentially a brown coat and a finish coat, bare block. It's all you need for stucco. And again, stucco king of cladding in the Southwest. I'm from Florida. It has stucco has been prevalent in Florida for over 100 years, and it can be used anywhere throughout the United States. If you're going to clad our block with something other than stucco, you can see the example here in the front. This has a tile. This is also tile, and this is faux stone. You can do real stone. You can do real brick. You can do brick veneer. This particular cement here, or mortar, is run-of-the-mill thin set. You just butter the back of the faux stone, butter the key this into the block, stick it on here, and it's a tremendous hold. Remember, the face of the block here, lots and lots of texture, which we affectionately call tooth. All right, it's able to grab any kind of adhesive. In this case, this is thin set. Thin set would be used for tile, and this is also tile. If you're going to use paneling or lap siding or anything else that's going to create an airspace, then you're going to want to use furring strips in accordance with whatever that material's manufacturer's recommendation for interval and type of fastening system. But for fastening furring strips into the block, you need to think of the concrete cores, vertical and horizontal, every 12 inches on center, that think of them as framing members. And those furring strips can be secured to those framing members with a simple concrete fastener like a Tapcon, a blue screw. There's also an alternative method described in the build manual too, about using some inexpensive fasteners like a spiral nail that could be stuck in the glue the furring strip to the wall, stick it in through the furring strip so it penetrates the empty core before you pour concrete into it. And then when the concrete's poured, that inexpensive fastener will hold because it's embedded now in concrete. So those mentioned in the build manual if you need further guidance, or give us a call if you got any kind of questions. But if you're going to use furring strips based on whatever it is that you're going to create there to clad your walls, if there's an airspace in there, there's one concern, and that's the accumulation of moisture in that airspace. So the recommendation is that you do waterproof the face of the block first, and then put the furring strips on, and then put your cladding on. What that does is, if any moisture should condense in there, it will should weep out underneath your through your airspace on your cladding and not penetrate the wall. It isn't going to hurt the wall, but you don't need moisture in your block, particularly if you're going to encounter freezing conditions. All right, so that's the waterproofing level or layer is something that you'd want to have in there if you're creating an airspace with cladding. I don't have any examples of furring strips or different types of cladding, but furring strips can be either a 1x2, a pressure treated 1x2, or a hat channel, which is metal, and if you look down it looks like a hat. You can secure that to the concrete cores in the block, and then you can hang just about anything you want on the walls. All right, I'm going to speak about interior cladding here in a moment, but I wanted to direct your attention to the internal cores of concrete inside the block, which is actually your structure. And this is what I was talking about, thinking about them as framing members. This is a 2x3 section of wall where we put steel, poured concrete, and then remove part of the wall so you can see what it looks like inside. And if you think of these as framing members, albeit they are concrete, wherever there's a seam in the block, that's the center of a core. So it's easy to find these. They're 12 inches on center vertically and horizontally between the vertical columns and the horizontal column, 12 inches on center. So think about that when you're securing furring strips or that sort of thing. All right, I'm going to talk about interior cladding for right now. International Residential Code speaks of 4 different things for what they call a thermal resistive barrier. The first one being a 1/2 inch, and this is for living quarters. The first thing being a 1/2 inch of drywall. Here's an example of putting drywall on the face of the block. Remember what I said about tooth has a lot of grab. This is general purpose joint compound. It's an adhesive. So you can use this as an adhesive to paste your drywall boards right to the face of the block. Think of it as just a big piece of tile. Either butter the back of the board or butter the face of the block, and then you stick it up there. You can do it a full butter, or you can splotch it, or you can do lines of troweled, excuse me, 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch notch trowel joint compound in lines or in splotches 16 inches on center, and then stick it up there. Of course, once you stick it up there, you have to support it in some way until this joint compound dries. And I can tell you, once it's dried, you're going to need a hammer and chisel to get it off, because it's a tremendous method of adhering drywall to the face of this block, because the face has so much texture. I'm not going to speak right now about electrical. We can talk about that in a later video. But along with drywall comes plaster or lime plaster, or stucco, as an example, can be used on the inside. We do ask folks that do have stucco skills to bid the inside, which is about 1/3 of the square footage on the interior that's going to be ICF exposed. we do ask them if they can do a burnish trowel technique, much like Venetian plaster with stucco with less sand in it, and it gives it a smooth finish, uh, much like plaster, but it's cement. All right, so that's a good alternative if you want to do the inside. You can do it in drywall, plaster, or stucco. And the last one being paneling. The IRC code even includes paneling as a thermal resistive barrier. Those four things are essentially a requirement for in living quarters that you clad the inside of the block. All right. So for doing drywall or plaster, simple, easy technique to clad the wall and meet code at the same time. Pat. All right, folks, everything I spoke about earlier here about cladding on the exterior and interior is actually discussed in the manual, which is available for free download on our website. And I would recommend that you take a good look at it. But my contact information, Rick Tindal, is on the front of the build manual, in which you can uh, email me, call me, or text me if you got any questions. If you send me an email, likelihood is I'll call you back so we can talk at length about the answers that you need, rather than I'm not the greatest typist in the world, so I'm probably not going to type. I'm going to call you back. All right, so make sure you leave me your phone number. All right, so that being said, take a look at the book. Give us a call if you got any questions, and thanks for listening.